right, next up here on NFL Daily, we're talking about power ranking the non-playoff teams from 2017. So we got 20 teams to power rank here, Tom. Yeah. So with that, let's get to number 20 on our list. We've got the Indianapolis Colts. And the big-time question mark for me, Tom, Andrew Luck.
Like, if Andrew Luck is actually healthy, I think the Colts are much higher. So Colts fans who want the Colts to be ranked higher, we get it. But I think the unclear future of Andrew Luck is a massive factor here. How can we have the Colts so high? Because if they've got Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, they're not going to make the playoffs again. This is not a good football team as a whole right now. I do think Andrew Luck would be a big boost to that, but I'm not banking on the Colts being a reliable playoff team right now. I think they're at least a year away. Even with Andrew Luck, they'd be higher with him, but without him, I think they get dropped down quite a bit. And look, you can look at their point differential from last year. It was not good.
No.
Look, bringing back Andrew Luck helps, but it's just not going to be a factor. And by the way, for all these teams will have their point differential and what they posted in one-score games this year, their overall mark, that would be a good indication for potential regression teams, both positive and negative. But look, Cam, we've talked about it many a time on the show. The Colts really didn't upgrade their roster in the way that maybe they could have with all the cap space.
Though they brought in some good players.
Yeah.
I think Eric Ebron can be serviceable. Austin Howard wasn't all that bad at right tackle for the Ravens last year. But talking about
pieces.
In terms of a playoff contending team, not quite there.
It's just not there. I totally agree.
All right, so the Colts are there at number 20. Let's go to number 19 on the list here, and we've got the Miami Dolphins. And another quarterback question mark here with Ryan Tannehill coming back from an ACL injury.
I mean, even with Ryan Tannehill, I don't think the Dolphins are going to be a good football team because of all that they lost. Landry is gone. Sue is gone. Mike Pouncey is gone. All of a sudden, you're looking at a team that you lost a lot of your key contributors on both sides of the ball. And they were already a potential regression candidate. 5-2 in one-score games decided by 7 points or less.
Sure.
They're not going to go 5-2 next year. If you just flip it to 2-5, all of a sudden you're a three-win football team. And that's not out of the realm of possibility. Even if you regress back to around 500, you're just not going to be a good football team. So I think the Dolphins are not going to have a good year. I think there's a real chance, especially if Luck is healthy, that Miami ends up with the number 1 pick in next year's draft.
Really? Wow.
No, right. Playing in the AFC East with the Bills and Jets, all teams I don't think are going to be that good this year, I think helps. But I don't see Miami having a great year. Now, they'll win some games because AFC just isn't as good, but I don't think they're going to be a good football team. And that sucks because I think Adam Gase might be fired this year, even though I really like Gase. I think he's a good coach, but the roster is just not in great shape. They went through this rebuild and this culture change that I don't think will pay off in the interim. I really don't.
A couple changes on that offensive line. Traded for Daniel Kilgore. They also bring in Josh Sitton and lose Jermon Bushrod and Mike Pouncey to the Saints and Chargers, respectively, there. So that's a look at the Miami Dolphins. Let's stay in the AFC East as we go to number 18 on the list, the New York Jets. The first things first here, the quarterback position. Who starts week 1? Who will start the entire season, really? And then you look at the defense, Tom. Some nice pieces, but losing Demario Davis hurts.
Look, they started the year pretty well, and then they very quickly kind of regressed back to being the Jets. So maybe they end up looking more like that opening year team that beat the Jags, beat the Browns in close games. I don't think we're going to see that football team, though, Cam. I think we're going to see a Jets team that, frankly, just isn't all that good. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I guess the bright side for the Jets is that, A, they are in the AFC East. I could see them finishing second in the AFC East this year. But that doesn't mean they're actually a good football
Doesn't mean playoffs either.
It shouldn't mean playoffs. I think 5-11, again, is a pretty fair expectation for New York. I like their future with Sam Darnold, but I don't think you want to play him right away anyway. And we saw the Jets end the year 2-9. I think that could be more in line with the team we see. I could see him losing or winning only 4 games this year, and I know Jets fans won't like it. I don't think that's all that outlandish.
You know, we saw some really good play, Tom. I want to zone in on the wide receivers here. From Quincy Enunwa and Robbie Anderson.
Anderson, at past couple of years, yeah.
And Enunwa dealt with their fair share of injuries a year ago, so the Jets were kind of behind the 8 ball in that regard. But I think they have a couple of bright futures there.
Potentially, I will say this, and it's almost unfair. There is some name brand doubt that even I myself has because, Enunwa's fine. Anderson has put up some good numbers, had some off-field issues this year. Do you actually trust them to be the guys that make the offense go? Is Isaiah Crowell or Bilal Powell? I don't think so. I don't think the offensive line is that good either. So I think the Jets, even though they went 5-11 last year, I don't know if they're going to be as good of a football team this year based on their record. I think they could come back down to earth just a little bit.
Got my concerns about that offensive line, though, no doubt about it. All right, let's go to number 17 on the list, the Arizona Cardinals, who are looking into perhaps signing Trey Boston. Maybe that will help them move up the rankings, Tom.
Maybe a little bit, but I think Arizona, of these bottom teams we're discussing, they really jump out to me as a potential regression candidate for one big reason. In one-score games, Cam, they went 6-2 last year. Who here thinks they're going to go 6-2 again? Yeah, I don't think
many.
so. Not many. Now, they do get back David Johnson. That is a massive
Huge
addition for them on the offense. Maybe they play Josh Rosen early. I think their defense is going to be worse this year with Matthew gone, some other key pieces like Tramon Williams gone as well. The offensive line should be better with Justin Pui, but I don't. Bryce Butler is going to be maybe a key receiver. I like Christian Kirk and Fitzgerald, but I just don't think that there's enough talent. I think they will come back down to earth on their record, even if maybe they play better actual football because David Johnson is back. Does that make sense, Cam?
I get that. And
okay.
I wonder also if Sam Bradford can play 16 full games.
Can't.
Because let's say he does.
But he can't.
Maybe the Cardinals could make some noise. I don't know.
I would rather play Josh Rosen anyway. I think Rosen will be a better quarterback by Sam Bradford by the end of the year because I think Rosen is very pro-ready. But at the same time, how far is a rookie quarterback going to actually get you in year one? In most cases, they don't take you that far, especially when the rest of the roster has some question marks around you.
All right, so the Cardinals are there at number 17. At number 16 here, as we are ranking the non-playoff teams from a year ago, the Cleveland Browns. How about this? 0-16 a year ago, they make some major changes.
There's nowhere to go but up, my friend.
Exactly.
They can only go forward. The question is, how far forward are the Browns actually going to move? Like, what is a successful year for Cleveland? Is it 4 wins? Is it 8? Like, none of that. What are the expectations? I know that the Browns and Hugh Jackson kind of like they got to win right now or else they're going to be in major trouble. But how far can a team that didn't win a single game last year actually improve? Mm-hmm. Now, they only had 6 one-score games last year. 10 of their games were basically blowouts. So maybe 6 wins is like the best case scenario for Cleveland early on. Or I should say the realistic best case scenario, because I guess the best case is they win every game.
Sure.
But realistically, how can you put the Browns above 6 wins? I can't do it. I think that they got a lot better as a football team, and I want to believe in Cleveland, but I just don't trust them right now.
I think the baseline is 5-6 wins right now for the Browns because I do like
the over-under
that they have. Yes.
Okay.
I do like the pieces that they have.
That's fair over-under.
Tyrod Taylor. Eventually, Baker Mayfield's going to come into the fray here. Jarvis Landry is the ultimate Tyrod Taylor receiver. Let's be real. Taylor does not like to throw the football down the field. Carlos Hyde at the running back position. Offensive line is in okay shape as well.
Unleash
6-7 wins.
Unleash Josh Gordon. It'll be great.
Unleash Josh Gordon. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of reason for optimism here.
There is.
Which, when you compare it to the likes of the Dolphins, the Jets maybe, I mean, the Cardinals,
I do feel better about the Browns, but I also know that optimism for them is not making the playoffs. It's winning a couple of games and getting off the terrible streak that they've been on the past few years.
So the Browns had the number 1 overall pick in 2018. Who will end up with the number 1 pick in 2019? Let us know in the comments section.
I'll go with Miami. I don't like it. I think that the unfortunate reality is that somebody has to have a bad year, so I guess that'll make us haters for this portion of the show, Cam, because picking teams to not do all that well. But I think Miami jumps out to me as a team with questionable weapons around Ryan Tannehill, an offensive line that still has some question marks, and a defense that lost a lot of their key contributors. So I'll go with the Dolphins, Cam. Are you picking somebody else, or are you on board with that?
I really understand the Dolphins, but it's really hard for me to make a decision here. I could actually see, to be honest with you, Tom, the New York Giants.
Okay.
I think they could just decide to blow it up at the middle point of the season.
It's fair.
Start, trying things out.
Embrace the tank. Tanking is always good, folks.
Yeah, they might start testing things out on that side of the ball in offense and defense. So we'll see what happens. Ranking the non-playoff teams here. Here's the summary so far. Colts, Dolphins, Jets, Cardinals, and Browns at 16. Let's go to number 15. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals, and for them, went out and got Cordy Glenn via a trade with the Buffalo Bills. Preston Brown's in town. But Andy Dalton is the guy I'm looking at.
What's going to change this year for Cincinnati? Ooh, they got Cordy Glenn, good. That's going to help their offensive line. They brought in a guy like Preston Brown. They brought in Billy Price. But as long as Marvin Lewis is in charge of the Bengals, why should we trust them? I think their roster, talent-wise, is better than 7-9. Frankly, I think it's a borderline playoff team in the AFC. But I do not trust Marvin Lewis, Cam, to guide this team out of the AFC North in the postseason right now.
Does anybody in Ohio, aside from Mike Brown, trust Marvin Lewis?
Maybe the players and maybe Marvin Lewis's family. A couple of diehard Bengals fans who will never say die, but I just don't trust the team. Look, they had a negative 59-point differential, which is kind of right in line with about a 7-9, a 6-10 season, and they went 4-4 in one-score games. That's so perfect for the Bengals.
So average.
They're just average right now, even though they should be better based on their talent. I like what they did in the draft. I really do like it a lot. I love Price and Bates and Hubbard and Jefferson as an overall whole for your first 4 picks. Some of the later round picks, I think Andrew Brown could be a guy long-term. Mark Walton was a favorite of mine as a future backup. I just don't think the Bengals, as long as Marvin Lewis is in charge, are going to get over that hump. And frankly, they could regress as well. At some point, you gotta fire Marvin, Mike Brown, right? Or does he really have blackmail over him? I don't know.
I mean, they could finish last in the AFC North, Tom. I mean, I see a real scenario.
I could see 2 to 4 for them. And anything in that range makes sense to me.
All right, we've got the Bengals at 15. Let's go to number 14 here in the rankings. We've got the New York Giants coming off a 3-13 campaign where they basically lost their entire wide receiver core. Brandon Marshall's no more. He's now with Seattle. Looks like OBJ is going to be okay. He'll be staying around. The Giants get Saquon. What do we make of this team?
I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure they're better than their 3-13 mark from last year. I don't know if they're going to be the playoff team we saw in 2016, but I also think that I look at their one-score games. They went 1-5 last year. They should be able to win at least 2 or 3 or more of those close games, and I think bringing in some offensive line help in Nate Solder, bringing in some linebacker help with guys like Alec Ogletree, bringing in Saquon Barkley, getting rid of the disaster that was last coach and bringing in Pat Shurmur, I think all of that is going to help the Giants. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to get them to 10 or 9 wins. In a loaded NFC, if you don't win 10 games this year, I don't know how you're getting in the playoffs. So I think you might see the Giants get closer to 6 or 7 wins, which is definitely progress for them. But I just don't know if it's enough to get them in a tough NFCs with the Redskins, Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys. Outside really the Eagles, I think all 4 of those teams could legitimately finish last in the division because they all have some really good pieces on their roster.
Wasn't a fan of the Nate Solder signing. I did
money.
really like the Will Hernandez drafting and Saquon Barkley as well. Still have my concerns, though, overall about that offensive line.
We disagreed on the Barkley pick because the Giants are hoping that Barkley is the difference that gets them from 3-13 to, let's say, 11-5, and that he becomes the focal point of that offense and that it gets them back in the playoff mix. I think it makes them much better right now, but I don't think it's to get them back in the playoffs. And at that point, shouldn't you go with your quarterback? Because it's not Davis Webb and it's not Kyle Lauletta long term. It's just not.
All right, we got the Giants there at number 14. Let's check in with number 13 on the list. And we've got the Chicago Bears. And I've talked about them a lot in regards to what they have on the defensive side of the ball as well as the offensive side. But I am really excited about this D-Tom.
I really want to believe in Chicago, Cam. I really, truly do. I think they got a lot of good pieces. I love Roquan Smith. Their defense overall was very solid last year. The offense was a disaster, but they brought in Allen Robinson and Trey Burton and Taylor Gabriel. And oh, by the way, they also drafted Anthony Miller. This is a Bears team that is definitely trending in the correct direction, especially if they get better play from Mitchell Trubisky, which would be the case because the offense has way more players around him. But I still think Chicago is a year away. I don't think they're quite in the mix as a legitimate playoff team. They're a nice, fun, actual dark horse sleeper pick. But I think in a very tough NFC North, I think they finish last again. Even if it's at like 6 or 7 wins, I think they finish last. And then next year, we're talking about the Bears as a real playoff threat. I think it's one more year for Chicago, one more quality draft that allows them to get the pieces in place for in year 3 of Trubisky to take that big leap forward like we've seen other teams do in the past.
You know, I look at this defense, particularly the secondary, Tom. I think bringing back Kyle Fuller was really big. I love the safety tandem of Amos and Eddie Jackson, and Prince Mukamura is there as well. And then you look at the front seven. Trevathan had a good season. Roquan Smith, of course, comes to town. He could be the future of that linebacking core there. First-round pick. Akeem Hicks had a great year, too.
I would like one more edge rusher. Maybe that's next year's draft to pair with what I don't know if it's really going to be a guy like an Aaron Lynch or some of the guys you have on the roster. I also want to see what Jonathan Bullard has because they lost one of their defensive linemen to the Bucs this year. I want to see Bullard take a bigger role and make a bigger impact for them.
Yep. All right. Chicago could make some noise. We'll see. We've got them at number 13 in our rankings. Let's go to number 12 now. We've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, Tampa Bay. What a disappointment they were.
They were supposed to be the next big NFL team. This was going to be their breakout year, and then it didn't happen. The defense, an unmitigated disaster last year. The offense never clicked, and Dirk Cutter and James Winston didn't seem to get along all that well. Here's the good news. On defense, they upgraded. Mitch Unrein comes in. Bo Allen comes in. Vinny Curry, JPP, all come in. Vita Vea comes in. And if you're looking for a positive regression team, the Bucs do make some sense. Negative 47 is closer to a team around 500. That is not a 500 team. They went 3-7 in one-score games. If they can get to 5 or 6 in those games, look, you're not really a playoff team, but you're closer to a 500 team. So the Bucs, based on kind of the statistical stuff, should have been a 5-win team. I mean, they lost the Patriots by 4, Cardinals by 5, Bills by 3, Pack by 6, Lions, Falcons, Panthers, all were 3-point games. One drive change, and all of a sudden, they're closer to a 500 borderline playoff team. I think that's what they really are right now. I just don't really trust or to get them to take that next step.
And a lot of people think he will be the first head coach to be fired in 2018. I don't know if that's going to be the case.
It might still be Hugh Jackson.
By the way,
he's definitely a candidate.
Dirk Cutter has no excuse to have a season like this yet again.
No, he shouldn't. And I make note of the teams that could be positive regression candidates based on close losses that shouldn't be repeatable. But if you're the Bucs, at a certain point, you lose a bunch of close games, it's probably on your coaching staff at that point.
Sure.
So you can look at it two ways. Oh, they'll kind of get the better luck this year, or it's just bad coaching. And for Tampa Bay, my fear, Cam, it's actually just bad coaching.
Playing in a very difficult NFC South as well.
Yes, they are.
Panthers, Falcons, Saints, all playoff contenders.
Someone's got to finish last in that division, unfortunately.
All right, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are there at number 12. Let's go to number 11 on the list. The Baltimore Ravens. Probably should have made the playoffs a year ago, Tom, but here they are.
Definitely should have made the playoffs last year. Is this too high,
yes.
too low, or just right for the Ravens, Cam?
Point differential 92.
Indicates that they should have been maybe even better than 9-7.
I agree.
Year. There's a but though, Cam.
What is the but?
3 games they won. Packers, Dolphins, and Bengals combined 83-0. Now, obviously, you can't really just eliminate 3 games and say it's a fair stat.
It's not very fair, Tom.
But you look at it from that perspective, all of a sudden, you're a little bit closer to a true 500 team, which I think is what Baltimore kind of is. And oh, by the way, it's the AFC. It's really not that great overall.
The Ravens do have a very difficult schedule in 2018, but they brought in some pieces at wide receiver. I like Michael Crabtree. I think John Brown, when healthy, can be a bit of a spark plug, and I think Willie Snead hasn't really gotten a fair shake yet. So,
I agree with all of that, but I am concerned about the offensive line.
I agree with that.
I don't know how good that O-line is going to be, and the defense did have some minor issues, not major ones, but there could have been some upgrades there. Kind of ignored it for the most part. I mean, you drafted some guys later, Kenny Young, Anthony Averett, and so on. I just think Baltimore is going to maybe finish around 8-8, 9-7 again this year, but in a tough AFC, or in a weak AFC, it's going to help them. But I don't think their record is going to be indicative of just how talented the team actually is.
Let me just say this. Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews better combine for 10,000 yards.
He's still mad about it.
Combined. Do it. Or else.
He's still mad about those picks.
So ridiculous. All right, let's summarize the rankings so far. We've got the Colts, Dolphins, Jets, Cardinals, and Browns, 20-16 there. And then the next slate of teams, we've got the likes of the Ravens at number 11, the Bucs at number 12. We got the Bears at 13, New York Giants at 14, Cincinnati Bengals there at number 15 as well.
Not quite the true potential, but that's maybe Baltimore just because AFC.
All right, You're watching NFL Daily. Cam Rogers coming at you alongside Tom Downey. We are indeed presented by Man Crates. Do you know an awesome guy who needs a gift? At Man Crates, gifts are carefully curated like a museum, but actually exciting. They got personalized barware, jerkygrams, project kits, so much more to delight any guy out there. Mancrates.com is the website.
NFL fans, they got NFL barware for you. It's perfect for you on Sunday. They come with some peanuts as well. It's a good gift. Mancrates.com.
All right, let's continue on in our power rankings of non-playoff teams from last year. We've got the Seattle Seahawks here at number 10, and Jimmy Graham goes on, but hey, they got Brandon Marshall.
You ready to get called haters?
Yes.
Because that's going to happen here, Cam.
Do it.
We look forward to you guys, everyone. We appreciate it. Cam, the more and more I think about this, especially considering Seattle's very tough schedule, this is a rebuilding year. They lost a lot of key pieces that they needed to upgrade the offensive line, and they brought in DJ Fluker.
And here come the comments.
The offensive line is not going to be good this year for Seattle. God forbid Russell Wilson gets hurt. I don't think that team wins a game. They lost a lot of key pieces on defense. Cam Chancellor is gone. Cliff Averill is going to be Cam Fincher might be gone. Excuse me. Cliff Averill is gone. Chancellor might be gone. Michael Bennett is gone. All of those moves put together, Cam. I know Seattle's calling it a reset. I think it's a rebuild. I think it's a rebuild there. So I have genuine concerns about Seattle in a really tough division. Look, their point differential and their one-score games were about in line with a 9-7 football team, plus 34, 4-5 overall. But they weren't as good down the stretch like they normally are. Normally they start slow, close well. They didn't close well enough. They lost to Arizona in Week 17, which they could not do. Lost close games against the Jags and the Falcons. I know Seattle fans don't like because we're not drinking the Kool-Aid. I really didn't like their draft.
Abysmal draft, Tom.
I think Rashad Penny's going to have a great year in fantasy because he's going to get all the touches. But what line is he going to run behind? Mm-hmm. I actually like the Rasheem Green pick. I think he's a good Michael Bennett replacement. I don't like taking a blocking tight end in round 4. I don't mind pairing the Griffin bros together, but did you really need another linebacker? I think Trey Flowers might play some cornerback. You had big needs at corner and offensive line, and you pretty much ignored it for much of the draft. I just think Seattle's going to be in for a rough year. I really do. So I'm sorry, Seahawks fans. I know that makes me a hater. It is what it is.
Offensive line. Can't really pick one good player on that front.
Justin Britt, that's all I got. And
maybe Dwayne Brown.
Dwayne Brown wasn't even as good once he came to Seattle last year. He was not quite as good as he was in Houston.
Seahawks are there at number 10. Let's continue on in the rankings here. At number 9, we've got the Washington Redskins. Some changes here for this team, particularly with Alex Smith coming to town. Kirk Cousins moves on. They also get Orlando Scandrick.
This is a team that I might regret having so high when we look back on it. Because
so?
Someone's got to finish last in the NFC. And the Redskins had a negative point differential, which fits in line with a 7-9 mark. But they went 4-1 in one-score games. So if that comes back to earth just around 500, that's a 6-win team, and that doesn't make them a ninth overall team. But on the flip side, Cam, I think their run defense is going to be vastly improved. They were dead last in the NFL last season. They get Jonathan Allen back healthy.
Huge.
They drafted Daron Payne. Those two additions, I think, are going to be big upgrades to a run defense that had major problems. I think the ground game will be much more effective with Darius Guice. So the Redskins, not an obvious candidate based on the stats from last year, but I think the moves they have made help them out in a big way. So I am a little bit more bullish on the Redskins than I think maybe most people are.
I think the offense will be interesting to watch and how that running back core actually shakes up. You mentioned Darius Guice. Of course, they got Fat Rob still there as well. And
for now.
A couple other pieces too, for now, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how that running back core shakes out. Wide receiver-wise, will Jamison Crowder be their top guy?
Maybe it's Paul Richardson.
Maybe
Josh Doxson emerges. They got some upside players, but none of them strike me as, oh yeah, this is our number one guy. Ideally, Jordan Reed comes back healthy, but he's never healthy. So We'll see what happens.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
All right, so the Redskins are there at number 9. Let's go to number 8 here in the rankings. We've got the Denver Broncos, a team that, defensively speaking, was fantastic in 2017. They just gave up a lot of points because Simeon and Osweiler kept turning the football over.
Every year there are about 4 teams that miss the playoffs the previous year and then make it the next season. That's why we're taking a look at these non-playoff teams. These next 8 we're discussing, I all think have some of the best chances. And you mentioned it because, yeah, Denver went 5-11. Yeah, they had a negative 93-point differential. But guess what? They don't have to use Simeon and Osweiler anymore.
Right.
They can use Case Keenum. And I don't think he'll be as good as Minnesota Case Keenum, but I do think this Broncos team is going to have a lot more success just because Case Keenum isn't going to be a disaster. He can be an above-average quarterback, even just a top 20 guy. That's better than what they had. And the defense, I think, because they won't be on the field as much, their numbers will be a lot better. It's still an immensely talented defense, but it's tough to have success when you're on the field nonstop.
Right.
So, and when your mindset is, oh my God, we're going to lose because our offense sucks again.
I think Royce Freeman will be a big-time piece of that offense, too. Keeping that defense off the field and letting them kind of re-energize.
And you're hoping Devontae Booker as well. I know that Denver likes him, but spending a third-round pick on Freeman, maybe he does become the guy. Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, Shane Ray, and Shaq Barrett.
Look out.
Oh, man. Good luck blocking those guys. It's just not going to happen.
Denver Broncos are there at number 8. Let's go to number 7, and we've got another AFC West team. We've got the Oakland Raiders checking in here at this spot, and a couple of new wide receivers. Jordy Nelson, Martavis Bryant, signed
like
Derek
Bryant.
Johnson. Maybe Bowman comes back, probably not. What do you think about the Oakland Raiders here? Because I think they could break out.
I think that they could. I'm also not quite sold on them yet. And in particular, I just want to see how they fare for a year. And I know it's a year and everyone wants reactions now, but look, the Raiders made a lot of changes, Cam, but how much better did they actually get? I still maintain, and I know that Raiders fans don't like this, deal with it, I guess. Michael Crabtree out, Jordan Nelson in is a downgrade. That is a downgrade at receiver. The
A
good
big
news
one
is
or a minor one?
enough that you're going to notice it.
Okay.
But getting in Martavis Bryant, getting in Ryan Switzer, I think helps make up for that. And at the very least, it's a neutral move with all the other pieces the Raiders have added. I do have concerns, though, about that back seven. Derek Johnson can still play a little bit, but is he really going to be enough? Tahir White, is he going to be enough? The offensive line at right tackle, who's going to start? They've been using Colt Miller at left tackle for the most part right now. When are the young guys from last year? Garyon Conley, Obi Melifonwu, when are they going to make their impacts? Because they were hurt all last year. So there are enough question marks around the Raiders that I'm not quite willing to buy into them yet, even though the upside is definitely there and I wouldn't be overly surprised.
Okay, so we got the Raiders at 7.
I'm going to make one more note here. I mentioned this a while ago. Way after the draft, I was kind of catching up on what some other people had been saying, and we were criticized for being too mean about the Oakland draft, Cam. Everyone else was a lot meaner, and I'll make a couple notes here. P.J. Hall and Brandon Parker did not think they were going that early. Brandon Parker's camp kind of before the draft had been saying, yeah, we hope he gets drafted on day 3. P.J. Hall even said out loud he was surprised he went so early.
Wow.
So, look, Raiders fans, I know you like your draft because you can say anything in negative until Wednesday. After that, it's only positive stuff. But it's very much a massive boom or bust draft. And I also don't trust Tom Cable to get the most out of Miller and Parker.
Raiders are there at number 7. Let's go to number 6 here. We've got the Detroit Lions. And for Detroit, very much could be in the playoff conversation. I think they got pieces there to make noise.
They will be. They are going to be the same Lions team we've seen for the past couple years. They're going to be a 9-7, 10-6, 8-8 team, somewhere in that range, and maybe they make the playoffs. Think about it with their point differential, plus 34, right about a 500, one more win team. One-score games, they went 3-4. You go 4-3, you go 5-2, you're in the playoffs. That's what Detroit is right now, and they didn't make a ton of massive moves. They're going to try and run the ball with more success this year. And I will continue to, I guess, be on the Detroit side of things as various people of the Chat Sports staff slander them year in and year out. But they're going to be a 9-7 team. And is that really a bad thing? Like, obviously you want to make the playoffs, but they're not going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL as long as everyone's healthy. It's just a tough NFC North. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. That's what they are.
They'll be running the rock. There's no doubt about that, drafting Ragnow.
They're going to try to.
LeGarrette Blount's there as well.
Yeah,
they'll try. That's probably the better way to put it. All right, we got the Detroit Lions there at number 6. Checking in at number 5. Before we get there, we'll recap what we have so far. We've got the Colts, Dolphins, Jets, Cardinals, and Browns, 20 through 16.
Still the bottom feeders. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, 15 through 11, Cincinnati, New York, the Giants, and we got the Bears, Buccaneers, and Ravens. 10 through 6, got Seattle, Washington, Denver, Oakland, and Detroit.
All teams that harbor playoff hopes.
All right, with that, let's get to the top 5. And at number 5, the Dallas Cowboys. And I actually put them in as a breakout team for 2018, Tom, recently on my show.
I don't know if I see it. The argument, I think, is that they went 9-7 last year, and that was despite Tyron Smith missing a bunch of key games and Zeke missing 6 games as well, plus having that almost week in, week out, is he going to play, is he not going to play? So from that perspective, they should be better. But they did lose Des Bryant and Anthony Hitchens and Jason Witten, and I think that very low-key, Cam, this is kind of a rebuild for the Cowboys. Like, a little bit. Like, it's not a full-on, we're blowing it up, and maybe you can argue it's more of a reset, but I think low-key, Cam, this is a rebuild. Like, the Cowboys are okay with saying, you know what, this isn't the best team we could have possibly fielded this year, but that's okay because we're looking ahead to future years, because Dallas right now has one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. So maybe the window for the Super Bowl isn't open quite right now, but it's about to open for an extended period of time. Cowboys fans don't always like it when I say that.
I actually like the defensive line that the Dallas Cowboys have right now.
It is a good defensive line.
I think they're in a good shape there.
Yes.
I think the secondary is young but getting better.
You need an impact safety.
That is true.
Cowboys fans want Earl Thomas. It's not going to happen right now.
Earl Thomas is not going to happen. And, well, I think Byron Jones at corner is a good move. I know you're a big fan of that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, big fan.
The Dallas Cowboys could make some noise. And, look, you look at the division, NFC East, maybe the Eagles drop off a little bit. Maybe Carson Wentz has a slow start. The Giants, who knows with them, and same thing can be said about the Washington Redskins as well. With that, though, Jason Garrett's going to be on the hot seat.
It is playoffs or bust, I believe, for Jason Garrett. If he does not make the postseason, I don't see how he keeps his job. I think it is very much either he is in or he is not in, or he is gone. Now, unless there's a bunch of injuries, if Dak Prescott gets hurt or whatever, maybe that changes. But I think if Jason Garrett misses the playoffs, he's not going to be back as the Cowboys head coach.
All right, let us know, folks, in comments here on Facebook Live and YouTube. Let's go to number 4 on the list of our rankings here for non-playoff teams from a year ago. The Houston Texans. So we'll stay in Texas with this theme here.
I am willing to believe in Houston. I think they could be one of those 4 teams that missed the playoffs last year but will get in the year after that. But is Houston really going to be as the back? Everything is banking on Deshaun Watson. And I think that when you look at Houston, the offensive line is really not good. It's pretty bad. I have genuine concern about that. A, for Watson staying healthy, be having him time to make plays in the pocket or out to the pocket or whatever. So with Houston, I think that maybe there's just a little bit too much hype around them right now. Could he be a long-term guy? Or could they be a playoff team this year? Yes. But I think there's enough questions that maybe we shouldn't fully buy into them quite yet. I think the offensive line, maybe it's not that great. And Deshaun Watson, he made a lot of great plays, no doubt. There were some picks.
Could be running for his life, too, this year.
Look, there's a reason Houston's 4. They're a very good team and definitely have the upside there. But I'm just throwing out some potential. Here's why maybe things could go wrong for them.
Secondary could be good. They got the Honey Badger as well as Aaron Colvin, good slot corner coming over from Jacksonville.
I could legitimately see 3 teams from the AFC South making the playoffs this year.
I could see that, too.
Especially if the AFC West beats up on each other, everyone beats the Colts. I could see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
2 teams go 9-7, 1 goes 10-6, and they all sneak in.
All right, we got Houston at 4. Let's go to number 3 here. Out west we go. The LA Chargers, and I like this team a lot. I am always on board with the Chargers, it seems, but this year in particular, because of the shape of that defense, I love the secondary. I like the edge rushers. They've addressed the interior a little bit as well. The offensive line is young and getting better, and Phillip Rivers, he's got a couple more years left, I think.
I pushed back against the Chargers in last year's preseason. I'm like, I don't think they're going to quite be there. There had been some hype. I saw one guy predict the Chargers to make it to the playoffs in the media from ESPN, or to win the Super Bowl, to go all the way last year. Obviously didn't happen, but Keenan Allen was healthy. Offense was much better. Their point differential was plus 83. That should be even maybe 10-6. They went 3-4. Good teams should have a better record than that. So if the Chargers can just go 5-2, look, that's an 11-win team. I think that is within the realm of possibility this year for LA. But I do think the loss of Hunter Henry, Cam, is a big blow for them. I think that is a big, big problem, and I think that's going to help drop them down, at least from their absolute ceiling. Maybe they're not going to be quite as good without Hunter Henry because right now it's Virgil Green and a bunch of nobodies at tight end.
I agree with that, and I think the teams of the AFC West could really beat up on each other.
1-4, it is all for grabs.
Absolutely.
Everything.
I mean, you could make any order of any argument here in terms of the standings
Absolutely.
out of the AFC West. Chargers got some serious value with Derwin James there.
As of now, they are my pick to win the AFC West. So I am now on your side, at least for the time being, Chargers.
I always knew you were smart, Tom. Let's go to number 2
that
here
seems
on
like
the
an
list.
insult anyway.
We've got the San Francisco 49ers. Are you drinking the Kool-Aid, Tom?
I messed up. I'm sorry, producer Brett Scott. I didn't bring my Kool-Aid today. I should have brought it. I have it at home. Red and blue would have been great. I am willing to buy the Niners, but I'm also willing to say, hey, we got burned in recent years by the Raiders and the Bucks. Couldn't this year's Niners team be next? Like, just couldn't it happen?
The ultra sexy pick, and then they just kind of fall off.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of reasons to like the Niners, and the number one reason is because Jimmy Garoppolo, right? He had 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year, and a lot of drop picks. I think Jimmy G's the answer, but I think the hype just a little bit is outpacing the 49ers' actual roster and their talent and what they will likely do next year.
All right.
Now, they went 2-5 in one-score games, and yeah, they went 5-0 to end the year, including 2 of those games being one-score matchups, but I just don't know if that's going to end up happening.
Some big-time additions, Jonathan Cooper, Jeremiah Atachu, you got Jerick McKinnon, Weston Richburg, Richard Sherman, of course, the headliner of that list there for San Francisco.
Some good talent there.
No doubt.
Without a doubt. This is a good football team, I think.
All right, so they're there at number 2, and finally, at number 1 in our rankings, because of the quarterback position, it's the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers coming back.
We posted the poll on YouTube before we went live with the show here on Facebook, and last I checked, the Packers were the heavy favorites on the poll, and I think for good reason. You bring back Aaron Rodgers, you should be the number 1 non-playoff team, right?
In theory.
This just makes sense, correct?
Yes.
Now, there are some areas where things could go bad for Green Bay. A, injuries. B, the secondary that's revamped isn't as good. B, they actually really do miss Jordy Nelson and Jimmy Graham doesn't step up. Their ground game isn't as good, something along those lines. But I think this is going to be a good football team. And yeah, they went 4-2 in one-score games. A lot of those games, if they have Aaron back, it's not a one-score game. It ends up being a blowout because it's not against teams like the Bucs and the Browns.
Yep.
So sign me up for Green Bay. I think they make it back to the playoffs last year. Look, every year, 4 teams make it that missed it the year before. I think Green Bay, of all the teams, is the most likely candidate this year.
All right, there you go. Tramon Williams, by the way, had a good year last year, so I think he'll be good in that secondary.
Totally agree.
All right, we got the Green Bay Packers there as our number 1 team among the rankings here of non-playoff teams from 2017. Let's summarize the entire list here. We've got the Colts, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Cardinals, the Browns, followed by the Bengals, Giants, Bears, Buccaneers, and Baltimore Ravens there at number 11. Seattle Seahawks check in at number 10, Washington Redskins at 9, Denver Broncos at 8, Raiders, then Lions.
Teams that believe they have a playoff chance, and I could actually see them all making it as well.
And the top 5 for teams that did make the playoffs in 2017.
The most likely. Look, there are going to be 4 teams almost every year that this happens. Oftentimes it's more than 4, but it's pretty much always 4 teams. I think those top 4 are the 4 I'm going to pick to make the playoffs this year.
All right, folks, there you have it. This has been NFL Daily. I'm Kim Rogers. That's Tom Downey, and we'll see you next time.